Hi, lovelies. Lisa here, and it is day 28. Hard to imagine of my tower month. My towering inferno has almost come to an end, taking me closer and closer to July, which will be my card that I drew for July was the Daughter of Pentacles. And yeah, I couldn't get a whole lot more different from the tower, except the connection between the two, between the tower and Daughter of Pentacles. So this year, I drew the Tower for June and the Daughter of Pentacles for July. But in December of last year, the card that I had drawn for December was the Daughter of Pentacles. And that month began with a towery moment in the truest, or I should say, the most traditional sense of this card. My dog Homer, our soul dog, just Soul, Soul. We had another dog. We still have Sylvie. Homer was, I mean, Ezra, my husband, and I have had a whole bunch of dogs over the years. We've been married that we've loved, and they've spent full lives with us, a whole bunch. I mean, yeah, actually, there have been a whole bunch. Um, we started out with his dog Tucker, and then I had Sasha, and then we had Stella, and now Tucker, Sasha, and Stella have all passed away. And then there was uh, Homer and Sylvie, uh, and now we have Opal. And briefly, there was a dog named Gracie, and a friend of ours was living with us, and he had a dog named Ginger, and um, those dogs just moved out of our lives. Anyway, lots and lots of dogs, but there was only one Homer. Um, yeah. So Homer died December 8th, 2018. And because of that towery experience of Homer dying, the connection I make now to the Daughter of Pentacles, which was my card of the month, was that, yeah, Homer, that's Homer. Homer is the page of discs for me. Homer is the page of Pentacles, the Daughter of Pentacles. Anyway, so yeah, almost at the end of this Tower month, almost moving into a month where I'll have an opportunity to think about ways in which whoever Homer is or was, however that spirit is in my life, showing up in my life now. Anyway, so, when Homer died, um, I remember, and I had this experience when my mother died as well, just this profound sense of his physical presence, right? Of like his body, his physical body. Homer was a freaking huge dog. He was like a little pony. He weighed 95 pounds. He was like the tallest pit bull I've ever seen. And the vet thinks he was pure pit, but he was tall. When Homer lay down, if I, kind of cuddled up next to Homer, um, it was like being with a human. He was huge. And, um, and so I have such a physical sense of his body. And when my mom died, I remember being with her when she passed. I hate that term, passed. But because it's like what passed on to the other side. I guess, right? But yeah, when she died, when my mom died, I remember just being, my sister, brother, and I, just being with her and just holding her hand and her skin getting cooler um, and that physical sense. I mean, I can still feel what it was like to hold my mom's hand or to, hold her face and stroke her hair. And I can still feel what Homer's massive, gigantic Homer-sized head. I mean, his head is like this. What his big old head felt like, and what his snout, what it felt like to, kind of press into his face. I am not one to be afraid of dog slobber. Let me just say that right now. And so, what is it? Like, I so firmly believe, which is why I have a hard time with phrases like she passed. I so firmly believe in the interdependent relationship of what we call the spirit and what we call the body. I so firmly hold dear the idea that everything is interconnected, that you can't separate out the divinity from the profanity, that you can't separate out the high from the low, the 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 fleshly from the spiritual, that these are there is no separation between the absolute and the relative, between, you know, meaning with a capital M and all the little particular meanings that we find in our life. These things are intertwined and interdependent. There is no separation. And yet, in death, Homer, who was, is now this body, and this body still is present for me, although the life that flowed through it is gone. This is this is crazy. Like, how is that possible? How is that possible? Well, that relationship between flesh and spirit is also what the tower is about. How is it possible that these things can be separate? How is it possible that they're not separate? When we encounter death, it just seems like this is mere material junk, this body, this 97 pounds of fur and bone and flesh. It before was Homer, but now it's mere body. And yet, that mere body is so sweet too. How do we make sense of this? Um, well, the tower is asking us that. Uh, and these towery moments of death or illness, the things that we associate in the most traditional ways with the card, is asking us. Those moments are asking us that as well. So today I was with a family, a sister and her older sister, and the older sister is, suffered a catastrophic brain injury, and these are older women. These are women who've had full lives, and yet no life is full enough that anyone's ready to let it go, really, or rarely. Um, the younger sister was at the bedside, and she could see that this woman who had no memory or words was and wasn't her beloved sister. Like, she could see that, but she could also see how important it was to just keep loving up this person here. And she was totally devoted, totally loving, totally just inspiring in her connection to her sister, who now couldn't really speak and certainly couldn't remember anything, and was kind of agitated and was just not really present in the same way anymore. Um, but it was still her sister. These tower moments, whether it's a stroke of lightning or a stroke, these tower moments ask us, what is the relationship between the flesh and the spirit? Um, Tonight I was remembering a deck that I've had on my altar for a while now. It just somehow is like they're decks that just end up on my altar um, and stay there. And I don't know how they earned their place there, but Emily Carding's Tarot of the She, it just earned its place, whatever, 3 years ago on my altar, and it'll just stay there. I haven't been reading with it for a while. In fact, this is a second deck. I edged the first and ended up giving it away, and then I got a second deck. So this deck I've barely done readings with. The first deck that I edged, I had done a lot of work with. But I love. I mean, I don't love the cardstock, but I love this deck, and this is a deck that really is trying to picture the relationship between the material world and the spiritual world, and is envisioning the act um, of our imagination, our dreaming, and how that dreaming ends up becoming manifest as reality. So the four minor suits, that correspond with the four elements of air, of wind. I'm sorry, of air, of water, of fire, and earth. Those four suits are kind of related to the activity of creation. So the swords, or the suit of air, is the suit of the dreamer. So where we have our ability to envision something, to have an idea, and then let me just see if I can show you these. What we would call the wands, the suit of fire, is the suit of the warrior, where dreams become a vigorous, willful intention and enter into the world in that realm. And then cups, water, is the world of the dancer, where that willfulness takes shape in gesture and expression. And then finally we move into earth as the suit of the maker, where what was just expression now becomes embodied reality. So this is a deck that's really thinking about how does the immaterial, the spiritual, end up becoming material. So it's a deck that's really about the relationship between flesh and spirit. And so perhaps it's not surprising that the tower in this deck is pretty interesting. This is the picture for the tower. This is the card for the tower. And what Emily Carding says about this card is, so she's speaking in the voice of the card, and she says, I am the burning, lightning truth of your innermost divine soul. Strip away, blow away the empty masks of forgetfulness and know your sacred truth. From my eyes, illusion is burned away. From my voice are ripped all lies. From my heart is torn all distrust, freeing the wings of my ascension. I stand in the cosmos as one born into a new life. The comforting bandages of the old are scorched to oblivion. I know the pain of loss, and through that pain I find my greatest gift. I find my soul, my truth, my strongest foundation. The spark becomes a blazing fire as the ego weeps at its demise. Follow me beyond the sorrow and find the startling vision of your own eternity. So for her, the tower is about spirit released. So she doesn't even have a tower here. She just has the depiction of spirit of the self being burst open, and fiery shards, but also wings revealed. The tower. So I guess I don't have any ultimate wisdom tonight to share, other than just to say, it is the mystery how we mortal, finite, partial, fragile, seemingly fleshly beings, how we also contain eternity. The idea that there's like a soul that's in us and then the soul comes out, like in some, notion of the immortal soul as separate from the mortal flesh, that has never made sense to me. Soul and flesh, spirit and body, these things have got to be intertwined. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me. And yet, in the tower moments, we can't help but ask, how is the eternal here? How is that possible? We can't help but ask what my patient's sister was basically asking, like, my sister is still here, but how can that be? She is, and she isn't. Yeah. How do we contain the eternal? It's pretty wild, pretty magical. Thank you for being here with me as I contemplate these mysteries. And as always, thank you so much for your practice.